Hi folks, Rich White here, aka the Shrimp Simp. In today's video we're going to be talking about my top 5 tips for breeding cherry shrimp. I've been breeding shrimp for a couple of years now, and I want to share my most important tips that I've learnt along my shrimp keeping journey, so you can breed hundreds or even thousands of your own shrimp. If you find any of these tips helpful, give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more tips and information about shrimp. Let's get into it. Tip number 1, water changes. This may be the most controversial topic in the shrimp keeping world. Many shrimp keepers swear by topping off, which is replacing any water that has evaporated from the tank, but not changing the old water. I think this method can work with the right setup, however for most shrimp keepers, this can create an uncomfortable environment for our shrimp, resulting in poor health, lack of breeding, and in some cases, losing our precious shrimp. I found that doing small and frequent water changes gives the least disruption to my shrimp and ensures the water quality is optimal. The schedule I'd recommend for most shrimp keepers is between 10 to 20% of the water, depending on the size of the tank per week. For smaller tanks, stay closer to 10%, and with bigger tanks and bigger colonies of shrimp that might have other creatures with larger bioloads, which is waste from your pets, you can do larger water changes. Tip number 2, substrate. When you're trying to figure out what type of substrate to use for your cherry shrimp, I always advise on using an inert substrate. The reason why is because inert substrates do not change the properties of your water. Let's be honest, most people that keep cherry shrimp are going to be using dechlorinated tap water, which usually has parameters that are fine to keep and breed cherry shrimp. However, I do advise checking with your local water company or testing the water yourself if you have the right tools for the job. So we don't want an active substrate like many aquasoils, which are packed full of nutrients that benefit plants but can have an adverse effect on our cherry shrimp if the active substrate isn't set up properly. If you do want to use an active substrate, please don't let me put you off doing that. However, do your research on how to set up a cherry shrimp tank when using an active substrate like aquasoil. Tip number 3, feeding. Another controversial topic in the shrimp keeping world. If your goal is to breed shrimp, you need to make sure your shrimp are thriving and not surviving. To make sure our shrimps have everything they need to keep breeding, just like with water changes, we need to feed them small amounts of food frequently. A good schedule to follow when starting to keep shrimp is a tiny amount of food, and when I say tiny, I mean tiny, and every other day. Try something like a bit of an algae wafer or shrimp stick. Put the food in the tank and after 2 hours check if the food is still there. If there's still food, then you've probably put too much in, and remove the excess food immediately. Next time, put a little bit less food in and keep repeating this process until after 2 hours the food is all gone. I like to feed my shrimp a varied diet of powdered foods, shrimp sticks, and occasionally homegrown organic veggies. This isn't an exact rule and depends on several factors such as tank maturity and how big your shrimp colony is. Cherry shrimp can survive in a mature tank set up for weeks without extra food due to biofilm, but you may see a decrease in breeding activity. Tip number 4, filters. There's many different types of filters out there. Canisters, hang on back, sponge, under gravel, and many more. My personal favourite is the humble sponge filter. These types of filters are easy to set up and more importantly, easy to maintain. Cherry shrimp love hanging on sponge filters and eating any floating bits of food that have been sucked onto the sponges. Cleaning the sponge filter is simple as removing the sponge, squeezing it out gently in a bucket full of the shrimp tank's old water whilst you're doing a water change, then popping it back onto the filter. It can't get any easier than that. Tip number 5, plants and mosses. Now I'll start this off by saying you don't need plants or mosses in your shrimp tanks. However, you'll be missing out big time on the massive benefits they can give you and your shrimp. Having plenty of plants or mosses will help remove excess nitrates from your shrimp tanks. Sometimes we'll miss a water change or two for whatever reason, and we can't do a water change in our tanks. If like me, you have lots of plants and mosses in your shrimp tanks, then this really helps out your shrimp's survivability when you're not able to remove the excess nitrates via a water change. Another benefit is shrimp feel safer when they can hide under big plant leaves, and baby shrimp love hiding in amongst a big clump of moss, especially if you've got potential predators in your tank like fish or other large crustaceans. Some easy to grow and great plants and mosses to start off with would be Java moss, Christmas moss, Anubias, Java fern. There's so many plants and mosses out there for you to try. Let me know in the comments if you'd like some videos and more in-depth information about plants or mosses that work well with shrimp. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down below on what type of videos you'd like to see next and any questions you have about what we discussed today.